Today, I want to talk a little bit about vectors of frequency. Now, that may sound really bizarre and not make much sense to anybody. I think I made it up myself. But it's the idea that any action that you take in the universe carries with it a certain vibration to it. If you take an action out of drudgery then the action carries throughout drudgery and it tends to manifest more drudgery. If you take an action out of love or appreciation or positive expectation or sheer enjoyment, then the action tends to carry through to a destination of more sheer enjoyment. Uh, so I think of it like a vector. Back when I was taking physics, uh, a vector was a direction and it was a force. And I like to think of the action as the force, but then the energy that you take an action in, or the feeling that surrounds the action, is the direction component. And if you think of a direction component, it's almost like if you're taking an action out of a loving sense, a loving feeling, then it's moving you in its manifestation or in the full route of the trajectory more towards a loving state of being. If you are taking an action or making a decision or doing a thing out of fear, then it tends to move your whole being towards the direction of fear. So whenever you're doing your to-do list or you're trying to make a choice, take a moment to just feel around the choice. Is this a thing that you're doing because you're excited? Is this a thing that you're doing because you're going to enjoy it and you love doing this type of thing? Is this a thing you're doing just because you have to? Or is this a thing that you're doing because you're scared or there's some fear component to it? In that, you may be taking care of business. Now, I was camping this weekend and finding the right camping spot, because not every place to camp is illegal, and I don't even think where I camped was illegal. So in that case, I had to be a little bit careful. There were a couple of things that I was a little bit worried about while I was looking for a campsite. One of them was that in the redwood trees, there are these giant limbs, and at any moment, if you're camped right underneath one of those, if a limb comes down, it can pretty much kill you. Another thing that I was concerned about, wild animals. Not so bad up here on Mount Tam. A big one was actually being seen, because I didn't want to get a citation for camping up here. So all those three things were things that I needed to consider while looking for a campsite. What happened, though, is in the process of looking for the campsite, I became so concerned about those things that the whole process of finding a place to camp, which should be completely enjoyable. I mean, I'm up in the redwoods on top of a mountain, beautiful things all around me, birds. And here I am holding inside me this state of feeling concerned and worried. And that was such a good example of what should have been a very enjoyable activity turning into an activity that was kind of immersed in fear. So what I'm suggesting is, as you go about looking at the different actions that you're going to take, see if you can feel into the way that you have the action put together in your head. You can do a to-do list, and it could feel two people could have the same to-do list, and it could feel totally different ways for both those people, depending on the way that they've arranged the story in their head. If a person is cleaning their house, doing their laundry, and doing the dishes out of a feeling of how beautiful their house is when it's clean and those things are put away, and they enjoy the process of bringing order into their life, then that can be an incredibly enjoyable experience for them. If it's done from a point of view of, oh, I have to do the dishes, and why is this place always messy, and I have to do this, I'm forced to do this, then the entire activity will move them into more of a sense of being forced to do things, or maybe it has to do with not being helped, or whatever. Those two same activities can take you in dramatically different directions vibrationally. So this is just a little note to see if you can consider the vector of the feeling of all the actions that you're taking right now.